Hello, shalom, and thank you for stopping by. So, we're going to go ahead and continue with part 4, and we are still in Daniel chapter 9, verse 26. So, it starts with, "After 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war, desolations are determined." Now, the first part, as I mentioned, we already looked at where it says, "And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off." It does continue by saying, "but not for himself." I don't feel like it's necessary to spend time addressing that part because it's pretty self-explanatory and everyone knows that Yeshua did not come and die for himself. But what we're going to examine will be the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. So what we need to do is look at 3 key elements of that specific verse, which says the people of the prince. We have to examine that, the prince that shall come, and the destruction of the city and the sanctuary. Now, when we look at these, we're not necessarily going to look at them in order, but we are going to look at all 3 key elements. First, before we go any further, we need to examine and understand what is meant by prince. So it looks like the Hebrew word for prince is najid, and what it's referring to is a leader, a ruler, or a prince. Or basically it's a chief officer, a commander, a leader, noble things, nobles, officer, officers, officials. It's a prince with a capital P, prince with a lowercase p, princes, and ruler. So the point that is being illustrated is that when referring to prince, you don't want to necessarily limit your scope to a father and a son, and the father is a king, and then the prince is a son, but keep it in a full perspective of a leadership, a commander-in-chief, a ruler. So it does not necessarily mean it's father and son, but it means that it's a position that an individual has as a commander-in-chief, as a chief leader, as a ruler. It's important to understand that as we continue. Another element we want to look at is in this same verse, you'll see the Messiah, the prince, and that's spelled with a capital P. Then we also continue in that same verse and we'll see the prince that shall come, and that's spelled with a lowercase p. So it already makes a distinction. It lets us know that there's the Messiah, the prince, and the prince that shall come. It's the same concept of King of Kings, with a capital K and lowercase k. It's dealing with a hierarchy of kings, and even above all the kings is the king of kings. So the master of masters, the ruler of rulers. It's the same thing, the prince of princes. So that's why you have the capital P for the Messiah, and you have the lowercase p for the prince. Now, when we look at the prince that shall come, it's important to understand this is a twofold prophecy. So, of course, it applied during the time of Yeshua after his death. A commander-in-chief, a ruler, a prince came in with his army of people and destroyed the city. But mind you, this prophecy came around the time of Daniel, long before the Messiah even existed. And this prophecy not only is fulfilled during the time of Yeshua, but it's also going to be fulfilled in the last days as well. So this is how we know it's going to be fulfilled in the last days. First, we want to look at Revelation 17:10. It says, "And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue for a short space." So, notice it says the other is not yet come. Remember, this is a prince that shall come. And so even in Revelations, it's prophesying about a king that has yet to come. A king, which is a ruler, right? Someone that's in charge, a commander, a chief, a leader. Something else we should know about this prince that shall come. All right, so we know that this prince shall come was not just the prince in the time of Yeshua, but he's going to be the prince in the last days. We also need to know that he is a Gentile. We know this by looking at Revelations 13, verse 1. "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea." The sea symbolizes Gentiles. Now we can confirm and understand this by looking at Ezekiel, Jeremiah, and Matthew. Ezekiel says, Therefore, thus saith Adonai Yahweh, Behold, I am against thee, O Tyrus, and will cause many nations to come up against thee, as the sea causeth his waves to come up. That's Ezekiel 26:3. Already we see many nations, and we see as the sea. So it's already a comparison of many nations and the sea. And then Jeremiah 51:42, the sea has come up upon Babylon, and she is covered with the multitude of its waves. So even in Jeremiah 51:42, what it's talking about, and feel free to go back and read all these things in text if you like. The nations, a multitude, the Gentiles were brought up against Babylon. So you have the sea and you have the multitudes, and everyone knows the multitudes, just like in Revelations, a great multitude that is in heaven are Gentiles. So it's a great multitude. So there's the sea, and it compares to the great multitude. So we have the sea, and that is also compared to the great multitude. And lastly, we have Matthew 13:47. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a net that was cast into the sea and gathered of every kind. So again, we have a sea and it's gathering of every kind. And that's Matthew 13:47. So this is how we know the prince that shall come will be a Gentile, because he rises up out the sea. Or in other words, it's a king that comes from among Gentiles. That's what that means when he says, I saw a beast rise up out the sea. He's saying that he saw a king come from among Gentiles, meaning the king himself is a Gentile. He was born and comes from Gentile people. And this prince that shall come has been prophesied all throughout Scripture. He is the beast. He is the king of the north. He is the man of sin. He is the son of perdition. He is the man of lawlessness. He is the little horn. And of course, even Thessalonians tells you he is Antichrist. But of course, with Antichrist, there are many Antichrists. So you don't want to limit your scope to him only being Antichrist. But yes, he's Antichrist, and he is everything else. The beast, king of the north, man of sin, son of perdition, man of lawlessness, the little horn. This is who he is. We're going to move on to the people of the prince. So we've already established the prince that shall come. He is a leader, he's a ruler, he's a commander, he's in charge. And he came with his army of people after Yeshua died and destroyed the city. Again, that's a twofold prophecy. As we know, in the last days, there will also be a ruler, a commander, a chief, a leader, a prince that will come and do the same thing as prophesied, destroy the city and the sanctuary. So we're going to look further at the people of the prince. So we're just going to start with verse 30, although the meat and potatoes is in verse 31. For the ships of Chittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return, and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. Now it's Daniel 11:30-31. So already this is how we know that verse talks about the people of the prince. And what it's talking about is when you see arms, that means that he has a military force. Arms, I mean just that, like weaponry and an army of people and a force of people. And they're on his side, of course. And his people, his army of people, are going to pollute the sanctuary and take away the daily sacrifice. And they're also going to set up the abomination that maketh it desolate. So that's one thing to know about the people of the prince that shall come. So we've already looked at the prince, and we know he's a Gentile, and the people of the prince, which is his army. And also, they are going to destroy the city and the sanctuary. And to continue to show more support, we're going to look at a couple more verses beneath that, but we're going to look at all of it. Daniel 9:31-33. So I've actually added a couple more verses. And it says, and arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. But the people that know their Elohim shall be strong and do exploits. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days. So that continued from Daniel 11:30 through 31, only we went from 31 through 33. The purpose of looking further is keeping everything in context. So the context that we have in Daniel 11:30 through 31 was basically about the people of the prince coming to destroy and pollute the sanctuary and stopping daily sacrifice and placing the abomination that will cause desolation. Here they only mention sanctuary. When you continue further down in this verse, you also see how they are taking the children of Israel and basically killing them by sword, by flame, captivity, and spoil means they're plundering them. It doesn't specifically mention city just yet, but we're going to move forward to Luke 21:20 through 24, which is confirming Daniel. And in confirming Daniel, you see the same plundering. You still see an army that surrounds the city. You still see that the Israelites are going to fall by the edge of the sword, that they're going to be led into captivity. And we're going to go ahead and go over that as well. So let's look at that in Luke 21:20 through 24. And they shall see Jerusalem encompassed with armies. Then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and unto them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So the key verses we're isolating, of course, would be Jerusalem. Because remember, the prophecy says that the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. We already saw in Daniel 11 where they destroyed the sanctuary. But they're also going to destroy the city. The city is Jerusalem. And they have surrounded Jerusalem with an army, which we already mentioned. We already saw that as well in Daniel 11. Arms shall stand on his side. He has an army of people on his side to come and destroy the city. And then it just talks about the distress on the land. And it's going to tell you that it points out that the people, which is the Israelites, the children of Israel, they're going to fall by the sword. They're going to be led away into captivity of all nations. They're basically being plundered. That too is a twofold prophecy, because that did happen, of course, which is why you have even to the day the Israelites are still scattered into all nations because of the scattering that happened after the death of Yeshua. But also this is a prophecy of future events as well, discussed in other videos. But the important part in this video is to highlight the fact that Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. Now, we've already made it clear that the prince that shall come will be a Gentile, and the city is going to be destroyed by the people of the prince. So even his people are Gentiles. And lastly, what we're going to see is in Revelations 11:1 through 2, where it says, "And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of Yahweh, and the altar, and them that worship therein, and the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months." Okay, so looking at this, we see it again. The holy city was given to the Gentiles. So the Gentiles are who? The people of the prince, well, the ones that are in his army, which are an army of Gentiles, will surround the holy city. And they're going to do what to the holy city? They're going to tread it underfoot. Now when we look at, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. Now we know and understand the people of the prince, which is the Gentile army, will come in and they're going to destroy the city of Jerusalem. All right, so that's all that I have for you today. Thank you so much and take care.